Hello, hello, hello. It's your boy CL Cool, representing on the Yellow Rocket Boys Network Lifestyle Channel. Now, I want to take a look at black fashion. And when I say black fashion, I'm not saying that these are clothes or apparel that were made by black people. I'm talking about what we was wearing back in the day. What we saw as fashion, what we rocked, what we walked around and, what we thought was cool, as the black community. And when I think about black fashion, me growing up in Alabama, been born in the late 80s, growing up in the 90s, when I think about black fashion, I want to take a look back at it, what we were wearing. I wanted to take a look at probably one of the most famous black known in the early, 1980s, 90s to 2000. That is Fubu. Fubu, which is the American hip hop apparel company, stands for Us By Us, and it was created when the founders were brainstorming for a catchy four-letter word following other big brands such as Nike and Coke. It includes casual wear, sportswear, a suit collection, wear belts, fragrances, and shoes. Me, like I said, I was born in '87, so me growing up in the '90s, Fubu was very apparent. It was very appealing. It was everywhere where I was born. And seeing that Fubu started in New York, it was crazy to see how much the South adopted it. It was crazy to see how many people in the South was wearing it. And it just goes to show you that in the early 90s, well, in the 1990s period, New York was the driving force when it came to music, entertainment, hip hop, and black fashion, because later on, as we'll talk about, Sean John and Rockaware, those are hip hop brands that was basically born from New York. But Fubu was founded in 1992 when Damon John mortgaged his home for $100,000, and with that seed money, the company co-founders rebuilt half of his home as a factory while the other half remained as a living space. The other people was Carlton E. Brown, J. Alexander Martin, and Keith C. Perrin. I think I'm saying that right. But those are the four founders of Fubu, For Us, By Us. Again, walking around, when I got my first Fubu shirt, I was happy. I was ecstatic because I seen everybody rocking it. I seen celebrities rocking it, especially rappers. I grew up in the hip hop era. So just seeing rappers rock it, seeing black people on TV shows rock it. When I first got my first Fubu shirt, I was excited. It was great. So like I said, Fubu has a special place in my heart. Also, some more about the business. The clothing store Montego Bay on Queens Jamaica Avenue was the first to carry the Fubu line. In the mid-1990s, high-end department store Macy's started putting Fubu apparel on the shelves, which was a big deal, and even had the four founders and a window, like a live interactive window display on this store on 34th Street, which was a big deal. Big deal. So Fubu founders attended the Magic Man's apparel show in Las Vegas with samples and got $300,000 worth of orders, but they had no idea how to fulfill them. John's mother suggested that they advertise in New York for an investor, and in 1995, South Korean company Samsung answered the classified ad, and they invested in Fubu. So these guys, they started making the clothes. It started, they started making the clothes and started getting some buzz, and they went to this apparel show and they got $300,000 worth of orders, but they didn't know how to fulfill them. So you still talking about just four brothers who had this idea, and they don't really know how to, they really don't know how to fulfill all the orders. $300,000 in the 90s, that's a lot of money to be trying to, fulfill orders for. But in 1998, and now around this time in 1998, I'm 11 years old. In 1998, Fubu grossed over $350 million in annual worldwide sales. They received special honors for their entrepreneurial achievements. This includes 2 congressional awards, 2 NAACP awards, the Pratt Institute Award, the Christopher Wallace Award, the Online Hip Hop Award, and a citation of honor from the Queensborough president. So again, Fubu is on the road. 1998 is probably the peak of the peak. They're on a roll here. They're getting awards. The clothes is going out, and like I said, I'm rocking Fubu at this time. 1997, LL Cool J started a commercial for Gap. which he wore a Fubu hat and incorporated the phrase "for us, by us" in his rap lyrics. There was some little controversy around it because, Gap didn't know what Fubu meant. They didn't know "for us, by us." But, Gap, because they aired that commercial and they had LL Cool J, Gap even started getting some love from the hip hop community. I remember people wearing Gap back then too. But again, that's something else we'll talk about. Then I remember in the 2000s, they started doing platinum Fubu, where they would take Fat Albert characters. And when you had platinum Fubu, you was the man. Platinum Fubu was a little bit more expensive than this regular Fubu. It had Fat Albert characters. You saw the shirt with the Fat Albert on there. You had that platinum Fubu. It was so bad. I'm talking about, it was so widespread that there was knockoffs of platinum Fubu. I remember so many shirts that would do the knockoff of Fubu, and you had to watch out for those shirts. So in 2003, Fubu mostly withdrew from the U.S. market, concentrating its efforts in Saudi Arabia, China, Korea, Japan, and South Africa, which acquired other apparel brands. And in 2009, the company's annual revenue was around $200 million. So it went from $300 million, and then in about 5 years, it goes to $200 million. And Fubu kind of it declined. It just declined to the 2000s. I think it declined due to oversaturating the market. As John has said, the biggest mistake we made with the brand was buying more inventory than we need. It was around 2001. And since then, Fubu has continued to collaborate with various brands, including Pyre Moss and Urban Outfitters. And in 2019, Fubu announced a new partnership with Century 21. So you can see in 2001, it started to decline. And John says it's due to buying more inventory, and maybe so. But I think it has a lot to do with when Fubu came out and it did so good, what happens in the world of, what happens? Everybody starts doing the same thing. So Fubu was an urban outfit, that everybody liked, urban outfit apparel line that everybody liked. Everybody starts doing that too. So then you have Jay-Z's Rockaware, which became insanely popular. P. Diddy's Sean John brand, which became insanely popular. And then you got clothing brands like Echo, South Pole, Nautica, just to name a few. And so now it's getting oversaturated in cooler brands with, like I said, Fubu was dope, but Sean John had better apparel to me. And then you had Rockaware, which had the apparel, and you had the two rappers, Jay-Z and P. Diddy, at the time, who was the two of the biggest rappers in the game, behind the clothing. And even, like you say, you had South Pole, and you had other brands that, Mecca, you had other brands, so many other brands. So, and I think Fubu got lost in that. But I would never forget the brand of Fubu. I would never forget, getting that first Fubu shirt and me just being so excited because I got a Fubu shirt. I never forget that. Taking a look back at black fashion, Fubu will forever be one of my favorite black-owned apparel. And remember, with this series, it's not just going to be about black-owned apparel. It's going to be about the black fashion, period. For example, later on, we'll probably do an episode about Ralph Lauren Polo. Ralph Lauren was a white man, yes, but let's not get it mistaken. Black people was rocking polo and still do to this day. So with this series, we're going to talk about black fashion, all right? Not black people who made it, even though, my first episode is Fubu, because Fubu just has a special place in my heart. But just black fashion, period. Okay? And, because black people, we know how to do fashion, baby. But as always, I'm still cool. I appreciate you listening. Yes, this sounds rough, you know what I'm saying? But, I want to make content for you, and here it is. All right? I appreciate it. I'm out. Much love. Look forward to the second episode. Peace.